Squeezing dinner in.
Yeah, exactly.
You're at school late?
Yeah, I had a late meeting, so it was easier just to stay.
I get it.
Yeah, you definitely get it.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right. Hey, Joseph, are you on here? I was just wondering, the person running the meeting.
Yeah, it's me.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for doing this for us.
Oh, my pleasure. Who do we have on today? It's the building committee, right? Do we also have school officials?
Yes, and town council members were invited as well, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make it because they may have another event that they're going to. But both, it is the school building committee, the permanent building committee, and the school district officials as well, and
All
the
right,
school
very good.
committee.
No ballot question, folks? Like people running the ballot question committee?
We don't have one.
Okay, all right.
In our town, we have a permanent building committee in which we oversee all construction of over $100,000. So we said there is no ballot committee per se.
100 grand will probably barely get you a concession stand
That
now.
gets you, like 2 pieces of lumber and a
Yeah,
steel beam.
so basically everything.
Yes. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Lynn, are you on?
I am.
Okay.
So we're ready to get going?
Yeah, let's get going. According to the agenda, is there anyone who wishes to speak in public participation? Hearing none. Lynn?
Yes, hi. Thank you, Jason, for meeting with us. We're in our schematic design phase right now on the project, and we are looking to right now share the cost of the project, and we'll be entering in the phase where a lot of people will be wanting to share a lot of information with the public about the project. And in that regard, we wanted to hear from you in terms of what we can and can't say in terms of voting for the project.
Very good. So now it's my floor, I suppose?
It's all yours, Mr. Tate.
All right, thank you.
Do you need to be a co-host? Do you need to share anything?
I will need to share my screen. I have a
All right, I'm gonna
slideshow.
Let's see if
So,
I can do this. I'll make you a co-host.
thank you.
You got it.
All right. So just a little background on the type of training I'm going to give you today. It lasts about 40 minutes or so. I started at my job at 2008, and for most of my time at OCPF, the Office of Campaign and Political Finance, my boss, his name was Mike, and he loved getting out and doing trainings. He just liked getting out, even though it was my job. He'd say, you know what, let me take this one. He would never do that for these types of trainings. And the reason why is because there are a lot of gray areas. When we're dealing with candidates, it's black and white. It's you can raise this much, you can do this, you can do that. With these ballot question issues, we call them Anderson issues, and you'll find out a little later why. With these ballot question issues, we're working with a sentence from the campaign finance law, a court case from the 1970s, and then another part of the state law that does allow communities to reach out to the public. And so the inverse would be, I suppose you can't do the other stuff as well. And so from those three items, we've compiled this sort of legal library of what we call Anderson issues. And mostly it affects towns trying to build buildings, and they're asking people to pay more in property taxes, and it goes to the voters. And so these are the issues we're going to deal with today. I do have a slideshow, so I'm going to go to that and we're going to push through it. At the very beginning, I'm going to talk a little bit about public employees, and then what you can do in public buildings as far as money goes. Then we'll jump into the public resources portion, which Lynn sort of indicated was her primary focus on this thing. And then I'll quickly go over ballot question committees. Most of you may not have heard of that ballot question committee, but the ballot question committees, they're all over our state. In fact, there are 4 ballot questions on the state ballot. So you're going to hear a lot about that. You probably see it on the news already. It's the same thing, just on the municipal level. So let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, I am going to call up my chat just in case people write in the chat, but I would invite you, if it's okay with the way that you do things, Joe, that people can ask me questions as we go through this, or at the end of each section, perhaps I can open it up if that's all right with everybody.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, at the end of each section, I'll open it up.
Yeah.
So at the title of this is the use of public resources. That's what we're going to get into next, but just a very brief overview of my office, OCPF. We're an independent agency. There are 16 of us there at 1 Ashburton Place on Beacon Hill. That's us in this building right here. 21 stories of state bureaucrats like myself pushing paper. we're on the 4th floor, and our primary job is the disclosure, the public disclosure of campaign finance activity. So that's money raised, money spent to get people elected, like governor, state rep, senator, your sheriffs, your we also work with political action committees, ballot question committees. It's the money raised. A small portion of what we do is what we're going to talk about today: public employees, public buildings, and public resources. Even though it's a small sliver of our overall mission, it seems to take up a lot of our legal staff's time. And you'll see why as we go through this. My boss does not report to anyone. He's appointed every 6 years, and he has to be sort of like a referee, right down the middle politically. The head of the Republican Party and the head of the Democratic Party, as well as the Secretary of State and a law school dean, they get together and they appoint a director to run the place for 6 years. So really the Democrats and Republicans have to agree on someone. Right now it's a guy named Bill Campbell, former city clerk, kind of from your neck of the woods, out of Woburn. We administer the campaign finance law through our audit department, and we have our legal department, which I encourage you to reach out to, and I'll mention that again as we move forward. Public employees. I should add this word: appointed public employees. People like school teachers, police officers, people who work at the community college or at UMass, correctional officers, myself, the school superintendent, principals. These are all appointed public employees, and there's a very strict ban on what public employees can do concerning political financing. They may not ask for money, and they may not receive money for any political purpose. The word in the statute, solicit. They may not solicit any money for any political purpose. There might be school committee members out there. They have, a little fundraiser once a year, and it's in their backyard. They cook up some hot dogs, whatever, $30 a head. Well, they ask their sister-in-law, who's a teacher, can you stand by the door and collect the money, the names, the addresses, so that we can get this party started? That would be a great help. The teacher can't do that. A teacher can't receive campaign contributions. We see those types of cases from time to time. Most of the cases that our legal department has to resolve at OCPF involve the solicitation of campaign contributions. What might that look like? So you guys have done all the work that you need to do as far as planning for this building, and it's going to hit the voters are going to have to decide on it. So a ballot question committee starts. Is that beeping for me, or is it just in the background? Okay. I don't think it's for me. And a ballot question committee is organized, and they need some money. They need lawn signs. They want to send out a mailing to people. So they're going to have a big fundraiser. A school teacher who works in the school that needs to be replaced or renovated, she's sick of working there. And so she gets on Facebook and she writes, "We need a new school. I know your taxes are going up, but trust me, our community needs a new school. The Vote Yes committee is having a fundraiser at the VFW Friday night. I hope to see you all there." And she posts that to Facebook. Well, what will happen is someone on the no side will see it, copy, paste it, put it in an email, send it to OCPF. And for us, that's a cut and dry case. The teacher violated the law. Public employees may not solicit contributions, whether it's on a social media platform or whether it's on a private telephone or standing outside handing out flyers. Public employees are not allowed to ask for money or receive money 24/7 nationwide. They're never able to ask for money. Elected officials, even though they may get paychecks, like your state rep in the Wakefield area, he or she gets a paycheck. They're a public employee, but the law specifically exempts them. So many times for these ballot question committees, even though the superintendent and the principals and those folks can't raise money, it really goes to the school committee members, elected officials of other sorts like select board. They are able to raise money for the ballot question committee. The PTO, they can raise money as long as they're not also public employees. Those are the folks who will be raising money for your ballot question committees. Moving on now to public buildings, where we see a bunch of them here, city halls and community centers, senior centers, libraries. Money can't change hands inside the four walls of a government building. Up here is Brockton City Hall. If Brockton had a ballot question coming up, and the vote yes group was in the building for whatever reason, maybe looking at architectural plans, and someone walks up to him and says, "Hey, I can't make your fundraiser, but here's my check." The vote yes folks are gonna have to say, "Sorry, I can't take the check. We're inside the city hall, but meet me out here by the flags. And you can hand it to me there." I know it sounds strange that you can still be on public property and money can change hands, but this law, which was written into the 1800s, I'm told, this is legend, it was so long ago, we don't know the exact reason, but I'm told it's because it's to help protect public employees from being coerced by people in City Hall, like a mayor going up to workers saying, "You better give me money for my campaign, or you're going to lose your job," that sort of thing. It's to protect public employees. If any of you get involved with the Vote Yes campaign, and it's time to send out maybe envelopes to ask people for money, please don't send them into government buildings. The courts did determine in the 1920s that a solicitation sent into a government building is a prohibited solicitation in a government building. So that's just something to remember if you get involved with the Yes campaign. I'm throwing a lot of facts at you, and you might be thinking there's no way I can remember all this. Luckily, there are guides that I can point you to here at the end. All right. We're done with public employees and public buildings. Do we have any questions at all about those two items? All right, let's jump into this then. The Anderson decision. This is back in the 70s when the city of Boston, they really wanted to pass this property tax reclassification question. So they appropriated about $1 million for an advertising campaign to convince voters that it was a good idea. Well, some taxpayers took the city of Boston to court, and they said this isn't fair, and the court agreed with them. They said it's a matter of fairness in the electoral process that public resources, governmental monies, cannot be used for political campaign purposes. And from that decision, and this portion of our campaign finance law, if you can see it, let me expand this a bit. Right here, Chapter 55, Section 2A. From that, and also the section of law in Chapter 53 that has to do with the mailing of information, there exists a rule that public resources may not be used for political campaign purposes. So what's that mean for you guys? For the most part, what we see are distribution issues. Distributing unsolicited communications to the public. It's publicly funded, unsolicited, and it has to do with an election issue, the ballot question. Those are the sorts of things that are probably going to get a community in trouble with the campaign finance law if they violate it. And what does that look like? How about a mass mailing to voters at the public expense? You know what? It's part of our budget. We have an extra $6,000, $7,000. Why don't we use the school postage meter, and we'll make flyers and we'll tell everybody why it's a good idea and the reasons why. They have to know the reasons why we want a new school, and we mail that out to the public. That's prohibited by the law. Or another real case that we've had, several of them actually, a school principal might get real excited for the ballot question coming up and ask the secretary, "Hey, can you make 500 copies of this flyer here, asking the parents to vote yes on the tax override debt exclusion for the school?" And they do that. They give it to the teachers. The teachers put it in the backpacks. Those are public resources. That's the use of employee time, paper, the copier, all for a political purpose, and would be prohibited. Many schools have that robocall system to cancel school and all that. You wouldn't want to use that to advocate for a ballot question. That's the use of a public resource for a campaign purpose. Or even in a school newsletter, which seems odd to our American ears, you know, with the Constitution and free speech, but it is a public resource. And so our our office has developed opinions that advocating for or against, or even seemingly objective material put in a newsletter would be prohibited by law. I've gone through just a few examples here, and I'm sure that some of you are probably thinking our hands are really tied, and that is a frustrating fact here, and that's the frustrating truth, is that your hands really are tied when it comes to pushing out unsolicited information to the public. I see that someone's hand is up.
Yeah, Lynn, you had a question? Lynn?
Me, my
Yeah.
hand?
Yeah, it said your hand was up.
No, it wasn't up, but I do have a question.
All right.
So designers and OPMs are considered agents of the town?
These are the consultants or whatever that you hired to manage the project.
Yes.
They are being paid by the town. What do you mean by agents? As far as, you mean, are they employees?
No, I just mean that they fall under the same rules as what you're laying out here.
Yes.
Because you're being paid by the town.
Yes, you wouldn't want to knowingly say, okay, we can't distribute a mailing to the community. Project manager, here's $5,000 that we're going to appropriate for the mailing. You spend it. Yeah, that would be prohibited as well, if that's where you're getting at.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. But don't worry, I am going to get into the things that you can do. And by you, I mean public officials who have access to public resources. We'll get into that here soon. You can send something by mail to your community. It's in Mass General Law, Chapter 53, Section 18B. There's a process that you can go through via the legislative body in town, which I'm assuming is probably a select board, where the town can send out information to the public that shows, what will happen if the question passes, what will happen if it fails, how's it going to hit your tax bill, those sorts of things. So if you are interested in that, perhaps your town solicitor, city solicitor, can take a look at Mass General Law, Chapter 53, Section 18B. That might be further down the road once you are solid on when this is going to be voted on. But please, you can contact the Secretary of State's Elections Division. They actually administer that section of state law, not our office.
Jason, Amy Lehman has a question. She hasn't raised her hand.
Yes, Amy?
Hi, thank you. Just to go back to the school newsletter, I hear you on the, vote, yes, but can they send out a general communication like the vote is next week, or can they not do anything generic either?
I take this call frequently, and it's a great question. For every rule I give, there seems to be some sort of exemption, and it would be this, as far as your question goes. Our legal department has determined that if you were to send out something that is just the time, date, and place of an election, as far as sending it out by robocall, then that would be permitted. However, just to frustrate you more, the state's ethics commission, which is actually 2 floors up from us in that building I showed you, they also have rules on that. So we say, for us, time, date, place is okay. We highly recommend that you send us an email with the script so we can look at it first, and we'll send you an email back with a thumbs up or a, scratch this word sort of thing. But then we also ask that you run it past the state's ethics commission.
Okay, thank you.
I'll add this too. I just took this call, I believe this week or late last week. Jason, our town is sending out the water bills. We want to kind of piggyback on that mailing. It goes to every house in town. We want to stick in a time, date, place announcement, and also the text of the ballot question itself. And our office has said that that sort of communication is okay. Some of you may be thinking at this time, you know what? There are a lot of gray areas. So my recommendation would be do the good work of trying to get this school project off the ground, get the plans approved, the analysis is, whatever analysis you need to be done. But anytime you want to reach out to the public, I'd get on that computer and send an email to the Office of Campaign and Political Finance and say, we want to do X, Y, Z. What do you think? And we get these emails all the time. So, you know, I highly encourage Wakefield to do the same. We talked a little bit about this, permissible distributions, information that's requested by a member of the public. The superintendent's office gets a call from someone who is part of the Lions Club. Says, hey, we're Lions Club guys and gals have been talking about the ballot question coming up. Some are for it, some are against it. You know, the property taxes, they're high. Can you send us your analysis and everything you have on the ballot question? That's a permissible distribution to that one individual. You can send stuff that way if someone from the public asks for it. And then Amy asked the question that I've already answered, the time, date, place, with a neutral title, and calling the Ethics Commission. And like I said, please send us an email and someone from our legal team can review it and get back to you. When I say public officials here, appointed officials, I'm talking about your superintendent, your town manager, the principals, those sorts of folks. They're appointed and compensated public employees. And that's what I'm going to go through with this slide here. What can they actually do? They can take a position on a ballot question. If the school principal is out by the bus pickup in the afternoon, and a parent walks up to the principal and says, hey, man, what do you think about this ballot question come up? Do you think I should vote yes? The principal can say, yeah, you should. We need a new school and it'll be worth it. You know, that type of conversation would not be prohibited by the law. Superintendents, principals, and others in town, the tax official in charge of taxes, they need to get prepared. They need to analyze what will happen if it passes. How much will property taxes go up? If it does pass, where are we going to build the building? How big will it be? All this, those are public resources being used, and that's fine. And those sorts of materials can be created without tripping up on the campaign finance law. Community can hold a public forum. You can say, you know what, on this certain date, we're going to open up the middle school auditorium. Anyone who wants to come and hear the superintendent give a presentation on the school building project, they may. That meeting can be posted on the website. It can be part of, I don't know, social media that the school might have. As long as it's just a basic description of what's going to happen. We're going to have a public forum this time and this date to discuss the school building project. And that would be permitted as well. And even when you do have that meeting in the auditorium, you can hand out materials to the folks who show up. If it's within the scope of your responsibility, like a superintendent or a school principal or a town manager, you can speak to the press even during the workday, speak to the media. Maybe the local radio station invites the superintendent to come on for an interview. Even during the workday, that can happen because it's within the scope of that individual's responsibility. Now, should a school teacher be excused from the classroom to go do a radio interview? No, it's not within the school teacher's scope of responsibility. The school teacher's responsibility is to teach kids. And appointed officials can work for and contribute to ballot question committees. Can't do the fundraising, of course. We talked about that at first, but you know, they can be a part of the ballot question committee in a non-fundraising capacity. Any questions at all about what appointed public officials can do? All right. What's next? Yeah, the public meetings and hearings. I've gotten this call before. Jason, I was at the school board meeting and then the ballot question came up and the school superintendent was talking about how we do need that building and he's going to be fighting for it. That's illegal, right? No, at meetings like that, speech is unrestricted. If stuff comes up, people don't have to watch their tongue. because they're afraid that they're going to violate the campaign finance law. In official meetings like that, speech is unrestricted. Some of your materials may even discuss and advocate for or against a ballot question. If the school committee decides that it wants to take a vote on whether or not it endorses passing the ballot question, the debt exclusion, they can do so and then promote that in the minutes when they post it to the website, or some other fashion of communication. If public resources are going to be used to publicize that endorsement, please send an email to OCPF so we can analyze and give guidance on how that should be done or whether it should be done. Okay. Equal access. So the courts.
Jason, if I may ask,
Sure.
we were involved in the building of the middle school
Mhm.
and the permanent building committee. And at the time, a member of the permanent building committee wanted the permanent building committee to vote to publicly state whether we were for or against it, or, to sort of put our stamp on it. We decided at that time that it was not appropriate for us to do that, because we are not essentially we're not elected, we're appointed. It's our job to oversee the construction. What do you think are your views on that?
As far as we're concerned, the building committee, permanent building committee, could have voted to support or oppose that. And it would not have been a violation of the campaign finance law. Now, the distribution of that endorsement, that's another story. How would you distribute that? Every member of the permanent building committee could go on their personal Facebook page and say, we supported that, that's fine. But if you went to the superintendent and say, we want you to send out announcements to the parents that we supported that, we'd say that's gone too far now.
Okay.
So if you do vote for it and you have an idea for spreading the news, let us know.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate that.
I'm sorry I'm waving everywhere. There's a little fly flying around my head. I'm going to get him one of these times. Equal access. What is that? That means that public resources may not be used for campaign purposes. A public resource could be a building even, or a school property, unless equal access is granted. So if Wakefield has like a town common and there's a fall festival coming up, and the yes group goes to the town and says, hey, the entry fee is $100. We want to put up a tent, and we're going to have some of our materials there. This is the ballot question committee itself. Some vote yes on the new school materials there. Can we do that? That's on public property. Is that okay? It is okay, so long as everybody's treated the same. If the no group shows up or some other political entity shows up, they should have access to that town common under the same terms and conditions. And that's the equal access policy. Municipal websites.
Jason, Tim Baker has a question.
Yes.
It's just can you hear me?
Yes.
It's just a quick follow-up to Joe's question. So take his example of for the PBC voting to take a stance on yes or no of the ballot question. Since that would be recorded in the meeting minutes and those are posted to the town website and a project website, would that like disseminating information, would that constitute disseminating information since we have to post any public meetings record?
No, and perfect timing on the question, because we're going to talk about municipal websites now, which didn't exist in the 70s when the court came down with its Anderson decision at the time. But our office has determined that municipal websites are sort of the new century's bulletin board. And in the past, it was determined that information about a ballot question or a debt exclusion can be posted to a municipal bulletin board, same with a municipal website. It's more passive than distribution, unsolicited to the public. If I'm a resident in Wakefield and I'm kind of on the fence, it's like, I don't know what to do about this. I need to find some information about this ballot question. I am going to the town website and looking for it. Now, what we would advise against would be for any information you put on the website to look like a campaign website, like a flashing banner that says, vote yes, vote yes. That would be too much. But if there was perhaps a box on the website that says, for information about the upcoming school building project, click here. You click there, it takes you to like plans, it takes you to minutes. Perhaps it has a letter posted there from school officials describing why they need a new school, the full analysis. That sort of information can appear there. It just shouldn't look like a campaign site. We've had problems with the email lately, and by lately I mean the last few years, where a school official has access to all parent emails, and they'll get on there and they'll say, please vote yes for the ballot question. Email is a public resource, so I just want to stress that it cannot be used to distribute information on the ballot question. We've already talked about the robocalls. It should not be used for the ballot question, but can be used for a time, date, place announcement. I see a couple of hands up. I can take those questions before we go into.
Jennifer, do you have a question?
Hi, good evening. I just had a question going back to the use of email. When you say can't disseminate any information about ballot questions, does that include even very objective information? And I ask because our website, when we post news, there is a subscription option where people can receive emails of those news posts in their inbox. So is it any ballot information at all, or can we do the kind of time, date, place like you mentioned?
Only time, date, and place, and a brief neutral title and the text of the ballot question. Beyond that, the only other distribution that's permitted would be for you to adopt the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 53, Section 18B.
Thank you for that info.
You're welcome. So how do you actually get the word out? It can't be done with public resources. So how does it happen? It's through ballot question committees. These are political committees that are organized through your town clerk. It's a simple form. We call it a 101 form. And the ballot question committee requires a treasurer and a chair. And they fill out this one-page form. They hand it into the town clerk, and voila, just like that, they're a ballot question committee. They can begin to raise money and spend money to support or oppose a ballot question. If there are any school committee members on this call or select board members, you filed a 101 as well when you said I'm running for office. And then you disclosed your activity on what's called an M102 form. The same thing goes for ballot questions. You have the M102 form where you would disclose the receipts, those are your contributions, and the expenditures. For you, those of you familiar with candidate campaigns, there are limits and there are prohibitions on the types of money that can be brought in. When it comes to ballot question committees, there are no limits for contributions, and there are almost no restrictions on what type of money can be donated. For example, a candidate can't take any money from an LLC, a business, but a ballot question can, and in unlimited amounts. So if there's a business in Wakefield that's really interested in passing and getting a new school, or maybe there's a business that's real interested in its taxes not going up, and it donates to a ballot question committee, yes or no, it can do so in unlimited amounts. And the key here with us, like I said at the very beginning, is disclosure. The money raised and the money spent, that's disclosed to the public. And it happens 8 days prior to the election. A report is filed showing all money in and all money out. And then 30 days afterward, showing the remaining money that came in and went out. And these ballot question committees, they can receive money from public employees. The only thing that we ask is that disclosure happens. In other words, every dollar needs to be accounted for, a name and address from the donor. And then if it's 200 or more, occupation and employer.
Phil, excuse me, Jason. Phil, you had a
Hey.
question?
Hey, Jason, quick question. So I'm a volunteer appointed on the permanent building committee, right? Am I allowed to donate money to a ballot committee under my name, Philip Renzi?
Yes.
And I don't have to file a disclosure for that?
No, the ballot question committee will do it for you.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So we've covered public employees, public buildings, and then a long section on public resources and ballot questions. I would like to show you the front page of our website unless there are any additional questions at this time, as I move over to the website. Sorry. All right, so this is the front page of the campaign finance website. You will not file reports if you're part of the ballot question committee with our office. They're all filed locally. But most of our resources are here. There's one I want to show you here. If you go to the search engine and you type in municipal ballot question, there's a checklist here for municipal ballot questions. It's 14 steps, and it gives you almost all the information you could possibly need on how to operate a ballot question, which some of you on this call are going to probably be involved with. So if you are going to be involved with the vote yes ballot question, I would take a look at this checklist, maybe print it out and follow it step by step, always knowing that you can call our office or send an email. My email is right here, jason.tate@mass.gov. You can send it to me. I answer many of these questions. Many times they start with me, and then I can go to our legal team and we'll discuss whether or not something is permitted by the campaign finance law. So please feel free to contact us. I run the front page of the website, so I always keep our email address here. That's the safest email to send to. Maybe I'll be on vacation. I can't answer you right away. If you send something to this email address, it will not get lost in the system. We monitor that during every business hour, and we're constantly answering questions that are sent to this email address at OCPF. I want to show you a very helpful guide that I think sort of summarizes everything I've talked about here today, which is good. You were able to ask questions, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, I would go to this interpretive bulletin. There are many ways to get to it. I'm going to go here to legal. I'm going to go down here to legal main page. I'm going to go to interpretive bulletin. Hope I'm not losing you here. And then down here, there is a list of actions that public officials can take, activities of public officials in support or opposition to ballot questions. It's 8 pages of very valuable information. In fact, there are even subheads, which I appreciate, where you can just go through and find out the information you need. Can I take a position on a ballot question? The superintendent asks. Your answer is right there in black and white. If you want to do something taking a position on the ballot question and it's not addressed in this paragraph, that's when you send the email to OCPF for clarification. And in about 40 minutes, I've covered the general rules about ballot question campaigns and the use of public resources. But I can stick around and answer your questions now, if you have any.
Are there anyone have any questions for Jason?
I have a question. If you're in a public forum and you have a slide that says the implications of a yes vote and the implications of a no vote, is that considered not allowable?
In a slideshow, you said?
Yeah, and like in a public forum type.
Yeah. Yes, that would be fine. I do know that our legal department, if you had a slideshow and it popped up and said, vote yes with an exclamation point, they're not going to like that. Is that something we're going to take you to court over? Maybe not. But we would ask that you be on the careful side. The courts, when they made their decision in the 1970s, the Anderson decision, they did indicate that even if public resources aren't used, you don't even want the public impression that there's unfairness, that public resources are being used. So there's general caution recommended throughout this process.
The reason I asked the question was that we were told on another project by the legal counsel for the town that we could not put a slide like that in the presentation because it was coercing, because the costs were more for a no vote than a yes vote, because it would require a refiling of the project with MSBA and therefore a later time frame and a higher cost. So
The project manager or whoever gave you those instructions may have been being cautious or may have been aware of some standard or rule that's more stringent than the ones that we're presenting to you.
okay.
I have a question.
Phil Renzi, Phil?
I was gonna ask a question to Tom Stapleton. It was just, is the Wakefield Community Access Television funded publicly? Is it private? Like, is there restrictions on using access television time for this project in any way? I don't know I don't know what the mechanics are of so it's a Tom question, I guess.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good question. All the funding that comes in from the WCAT is from usually the cable providers. And that money comes in from subscribers and so on. It's a certain amount of money that is allocated yearly, 5 years is contract, 5 years, 10 years. And that's all put together. And that's where that money comes from. We don't receive any public funds at all.
But it goes through the town, doesn't it, Tom?
Yeah, it goes through the town first. That's right, Joe.
Right.
And the town cuts a check for us, and they split it up between us and the school.
Jason, what do you think of that as far as the money comes from subscribers to the town and the town then provides the money to the local cable access TV station?
We get these questions on two different fronts. First off, can the school superintendent show up at the community television station, even though it might be a public resource, and go through a media interview? Yes. Can the Vote Yes group approach the public television station and say, hey, we want to put on a 1 hour program concerning the school. We're going to grab some cameras and we're going to take some images and do some things. We need a 1 hour slot. In our opinion, as long as everyone is treated the same under the same terms and conditions, then we're okay with it. Beyond that, we don't have strong opinions about cable television because it's a very highly regulated industry. And so we ask that questions are directed to the state's cable television division. If you were to go to a front page of our website and you typed in cable television, you would get our legal guidance on that issue.
Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
And quickly on what everyone treated equally means, like who is everyone? Like the different
The no group,
positions?
yes group, candidates, any, and then any group, even just, Bill and Ted wanted to put on a cable television show. If there's a process where you have to take a 2 hour class, you pay a $100 membership fee and the studio's yours for an hour. And it doesn't matter if you're the Vote Yes group or the Vote No group or some other group, if people are treated equally. But I will stress that for cable television questions, we're not the, I'd say, top authority or final authority on that. All your cable television questions should be directed to the state's division on cable television.
Yeah, and they are. I have a question, isn't it, Jason? On donations, for instance, I know there's limits on donations. And can you hear me? This is Tom Stapleton talking here.
Yes.
And now if somebody wants to give a large donation, how does that work?
We'll call it 10 grand.
Yeah.
They would give that check. It can't be cash. They give that check to the Vote Yes Ballot Question Committee. The Vote Yes Ballot Question Committee must have a segregated checking account for ballot question use only. It would be deposited. The people who run that committee would get the name and address, occupation, and employer of that donor, and they'd stick it in a line in the M102 form and write $10,000. And it would be right there next to the person who gave $50. It's just a long list of contributions in what we call the M102.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any other questions? I'm not hearing any or seeing any hands raised. Last call.
Can I just make a quick request, Jason? Can you send me this presentation, just a copy of it?
We're recording it, Tim.
No, I know. We post them as well, just so people can look at it. I know it's recorded, but duplicity.
I can do that, Tim.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank Jason.
Jason, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, that ends the meeting.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Joe.
Good night, everybody.
No problem.
Yep.
Good night, everyone.
Night.